In 2014, our goal was to educate and inspire the next generation of young Black leaders. Today, we are in search of the best to reveal the secrets to success. Our belief is that we should teach the young early the things that we learn late. Our lives are shifting the culture. Our lives are changing the narrative. These are the ShineHard conversations.
So my next guest is an Army Reserve captain. She is a former Miss USA. And she is a six-figure motivational speaker. I'm extremely happy to have her here. We talked about her being here months ago on the platform. You guys make some noise. Turn up for Miss Deshauna Barber. So let's get right into it. Miss USA 2016, that was like, you blew up. Now you were on the big screens, you're on interviews and platforms, and we all saw, and we were very proud of you for that achievement. But a lot of people don't even know where your journey began. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit more about your upbringing and what growing up was like for you.
So upbringing started in Georgia. I was born on Fort Benning. My dad and my mother are both in the United States Army back when they met, right before I was born. Dad, say hi. It's my dad in the back.
Pop in the house.
My dad, he's very proud. But him and my mom met on Fort Benning back in the early 80s, maybe earlier than that. I don't know. He's old, but he's cool, though. And I'm an Army brat, so I'm kind of been all over. But the DMV has been the place where I've really called home for so long. I spent around 8 or 9 years in Minnesota, so every now and then when the Vikings is doing good, I claim them. But that's really where the childhood kind of started. Started in Georgia, went to North Carolina, then to Nebraska, then to Minnesota, then to Virginia, and then finally DC, and then Chicago for a few months, and then came back.
That's kind of like the normal Army brat life, like childhood all
just
over
bouncing
the place.
around. Terrible, but just bouncing around. So it's a lot of places that I call home. And how I got started into pageantry, I don't know if anyone saw my nice little viral Goldcast video, but I was discovered in Target, the Target in Woodbridge, Virginia, which is around 20, 30 miles down the street. And a random lady walked up to me and said, I look like I could be the next Miss USA. I laughed at her hysterically, and then here I am today. Psychic. But she discovered me, and I decided that pageantry was going to be my world. So it's one of the things where I think growing up in a military family, femininity is something that I didn't always embrace. I remember watching my parents in uniform and always just idolizing like that real just tough Army love that comes from not only seeing two Army people together, but just seeing a woman in uniform, that level of power that I think comes with her.
So before Target, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
I wanted to be a lawyer, and then I don't know what happened, but yeah, I wanted to be a lawyer. And then when I got to college, I was like, okay, I don't know if I can do 8 years of this. So I'm like, okay, well, let's try, just working in government. And then that's what I did after I graduated from Virginia State. I've worked for a few different agencies here in DC, Department of Commerce, Department of the Navy, Department of Transportation. So I've been a DC native, as you could say, when it comes to work. Becoming Miss USA launched me into the limelight, showed me that I can come out here and talk and use my voice as a way to inspire people while still committing to the military, because I still am in the military. I'm at Howard University's ROTC program. So I just commit 2 days a month. That's what comes with being in the Army Reserve. It's your 2 days a month and then 2 weeks a year. So I'm there teaching leadership courses to the cadets. And outside of that, I'm always on a plane somewhere.
So I guess to kind of set the timeline, how old were you when you had that encounter at Target?
19.
So you were 19, so you were already at Virginia State?
Yes, it was between my freshman and sophomore year.
Got it. So what were you studying at Virginia State?
Business management. So that's what my bachelor's degree is in. Then my master's is in computer information systems. It's a degree I don't use. A lot of money, but it's okay. So yeah, business management is my bachelor's.
So what were the first steps you take? Like, I'm sure we have a few aspiring pageantry champions here.
Yeah, some pretty girls.
How
how do we get started in that? What's the first step you took?
The first step I took, well, first and foremost, I was discovered at 19, but I didn't win until I was 26. So it was 7 years of losing. It's a long time. So I think that if I were to give any advice on how to be successful, because obviously I had a long line of failure going on during that period, I think that when I finally became successful in pageantry was when I got a coach, because I realized, Deshauna, you clearly don't know what you're doing. So I finally got a coach. So I always say for girls that have not come up in pageantry, you have no affiliation with pageantry, I always say to get a coach, someone that knows what they're doing, so that you're not just wasting money on things that you may not even need, and you're putting yourself in a situation where you're competing for a pageant that you're likely going to lose because you're clearly not prepared. So I always say to find an expert. I think that's why you have people in your life like Matt and stuff like that, where you have people that are experts in their fields and they can help you progress your dreams and your aspirations. So I think it's okay to ask for help. And I think for 6 and 7 years of pageantry, I wasn't asking for help. And finally, when I had a chance to, literally the first year that I got a coach, the very next competition I won. And then went on to win Miss USA and then top 9 at Miss Universe. So clearly all I needed was a coach. Some of you all in any industry that you want to be in, some of you all just need a coach. Some of you all have all the pieces of the puzzle. You just need the coach to place it.
So talk about the struggle that I think most of us can relate to, is having that full-time 9 to 5 and then chasing that passion on the side. Like, how were you juggling the two, and what did you learn from that experience?
I think that I learned how important it is to be okay with not loving what you do so that you can fund what you want to do. So I'm dropping, I'm about to have so many Instagram posts off this, yo. Telling you, But yeah, I think that some people, you know, we have these like Cinderella stories where you have the, what's her name? Tiffany Haddish living in her car, and then all of us, you know, obviously it didn't come overnight, but you know, you have people that drop everything. Taraji P. Henson moved to LA with $800 in her pocket and a child. You know, not all of us are gonna have a story like that. I wouldn't even recommend that. But I definitely think that it's okay to still work. Some people think that let me just drop everything and dedicate everything to my dreams. Sometimes that's how you end up homeless, okay? You know, eventually you might move out of your car, but I don't wanna live in my car, okay? So that's why I thought that for me, it's okay to spend so many years in government, so many years working in a cubicle that I did not like with people I don't want to be around, just so that I can pay for a very expensive dream, which is to be the next Miss USA. And I think that when it comes to the things that you all want to do, you know, it's okay to still be at work. Just know that you ain't going to be there forever. It's okay to stay there for a little while.
So what I think is really fascinating is that after you win this title, that all of a sudden you become this overnight celebrity and you have all this access and status, but that is kind of fleeting, right? So you have to decide, how am I gonna flip this? How am I gonna leverage this for my next opportunity or to create streams of income, which it seems like you've had to figure that out, and you've done that, right? So talk about having that platform, how life changed, and what your initial thought was about what I'm gonna do next.
I think that that's probably one of the worst mistakes that a lot of Miss USAs make, is they spend so much time throughout that year being focused on being Miss USA that they forget that this is only 365 days. It might even be less than that. Mine was 345. They owe me 20 days. But,
run my check, bro.
Yeah, where's my check? Where is it? But, you know, a lot of the times we're placing ourselves in spaces and we're not realizing what the next step is. So my dad kept saying, what are you doing next? What are you doing next? What are you doing next? Are you thinking about what happens after this year is over? Because similar to when you're walking out of a job or you're walking out of a situation, once you're done being Miss USA, you know, a lot of people, you're not in high demand, and the organization is now focused on the new Miss USA. They're not worried about you anymore. So you have to make sure, at least I had to make sure that I was handing out business cards, that I was starting my business. I had started my business while I was Miss USA. I built my website while I was Miss USA. I found my manager, who is my manager now, while I was Miss USA, probably only 4 or 5 months in. I was already interviewing managers, so who's gonna help me after my year is over? Started my business, my website. I was already booking speaking gigs while I was Miss USA for when I'm going to give up my crown. And I had a whole calendar lined up before the crown even got off of my head.
So I think what also is extremely impressive is that you're a woman of color.
Yes.
And it's not very often we see women of color winning titles for Miss USA or Miss America or, you know, being the face of this American platform. What struggles or pushback came along with that, if any?
Oh, it was a lot. Oh my gosh, it felt like everyone hated me but the Black community. That's what it felt like sometimes. But I did have a lot of support. I think that when you're getting so much backlash, even if it's only 5% and 95% is all love, all you feel is that 5%. You just feel like the world is crumbling on you. So I just encountered so much racism, and it wasn't even also racism a lot of the time. It was colorism. A lot of people were not feeling the fact that I was dark skinned. So, you know, there have been a lot of Miss USAs that have been Black, but they were not as dark as me. It's just me and Kenya Moore. It's us. So I think that I really battled with even looking myself in the mirror. I've never had self-esteem problems until I became Miss USA.
Wow.
What a crazy thing.
Wow.
I never had self-esteem issues, but everyone was bringing up things that I never even noticed. I remember I had this one comment. I'm like this, and like, you know how your armpit has like a little crease there? Do y'all know people get Botox here? Did y'all know that? I didn't know that. Anyway, it's crazy, it's weird. Guys don't get it. Y'all know, women, you know what I'm talking about, right? Because y'all look at it in your picture, you be editing it, face tuning. They got
apps for that now.
They have apps, okay? But there was a little crease right here in my little pit, and literally I had messages from people that was like, I can't believe your armpit. And I'm looking at it like, I didn't even notice it was there. It's crazy. But it goes to play that, you know, people are noticing things, and now I'm starting to notice it in every picture. Now I'm starting to notice my nose is a little bit bigger, my cheekbones are high, and, you know, my tooth might not be completely even with the other, you know.
You're under this microscope now, right?
Yeah, under the microscope can make you feel all the issues that come with self-esteem. So during my year, I was rebuilding my self-esteem.
How did you stay grounded in that? How did you find peace and confidence within all of that criticism?
I'm not gonna lie, I don't think I did a very good job. I think that if anything, I muted the comments. Anyone that was, you know, placing comments under my pages, calling me a monkey and all these other things. I had so many things. I would just block them, so it's kind of muting them. But in a way, it's almost like hiding or shielding yourself from it. But I also don't know if that's the right way to do it either, because I think that you need to embrace the fact that not everyone's going to like the way that you look, like who you are, like where you come from, like what you represent. And if you're constantly trying to shield yourself from those comments, are you really secure in who you are, because these comments are actually making your self-esteem lower.
That's a beautiful journey. And so then you pivoted into the next chapter, which was motivational speaking.
Yes.
So talk about that, because I know that that's a very tough industry to survive and really even to get started, because we all have probably done an opportunity to speak, or maybe been asked to speak, or some of us maybe have been asked to speak, and we do it for free. When I first started speaking, I was speaking
for free.
In Virginia. I went to Virginia State, I was speaking. I went back to Hampton, I was speaking. I was just doing it for free out of pure love to educate and inspire and empower people. But when someone says, what's your rate? It got a little confusing for me, like, shit, what is my rate? I don't know. I mean, I've never really asked anybody to pay me to speak. So talk about two things. One, how does someone go about finding a paid speaking gig, and then how do they determine what their rate should be?
Well, I definitely think that to find a paid speaking gig, you first and foremost usually have to have credentials, okay? You know, no one's just gonna have random Joe Schmo off the street come and speak at their school or speak at their event. So you have to start off by having a level of credentials. So I always tell people, I know speakers that do this and I don't understand it. They say that they're a speaker, but they don't have a website. I don't understand that. I think it's so important to have a website, preferably a self-named website. So when people Google you, that's literally the first thing that pops up in Google. So if you Google Deshauna Barber, Deshauna.com, my website, is the first thing that pops up. So they know exactly where to find me. So I would definitely say that's the first thing to do. And the next thing that I believe has made requiring money or some sort of compensation to be a part of your speaking is my speaker's reel. A lot of the times people don't believe you can speak until they see it, okay? There are a lot of people that say they're speakers and they post a nice little flyer, they post themselves on the stage with a mic, but you haven't heard anything. So we have no idea how good of a speaker you are based off this photo. But I always think that it is important to record your speeches. And then what I do when I record my speeches is I pull the best 1-minute clip out of that speech. And that is the only part that I post online. And after I do, at the end of the 1-minute clip, Wayne always adds, you can find Deshauna Barber at Deshauna.com for bookings, etc. So you always want to have that little plug, because what's going to happen, which is what I'm going to tell you what to do next, is you're going to use every single social media platform with your video. So what happens is that when someone messages me or they email me and they say, hey, would love to have you come to my event. This is how I do it. Y'all write this down, okay? Because this is good information now. So what I respond back and say is, oh, I'm so excited for the opportunity. I look forward to discussing with you the opportunity to speak at your event. Please refer to my speaker's reel so you can understand my speaking style. And what they do is they go to my website and they see I have about 30 speeches up there, which means that I am no amateur. And I'm probably going to require that you pay me something, okay? So usually when they see that, before when I wasn't referring them to my speaker's reel, they was lowballing. Oh my gosh, lowballing. But once they saw that I had a heavy amount of speaking gigs, and the people I was speaking for is what also sets you over. So I have Bacardi up there. I just spoke for Coca-Cola a few months ago. I was speaking at USC. You know, there's all these organizations that I've spoken at that they know that they're going to have to pay.
Everyone should have an additional stream of income, whether it's speaking, whether it's real estate, whether it's just selling your knowledge as a consultant. We all have to diversify our streams of income, because quite frankly, you'll never become a first-generation millionaire on just your 9-to-5 income. Yeah. Yes. So that's something that I want to really nail home. But what you were saying is kind of starting at a point where you already had established that credibility. Right. So for those of us who have not established credibility yet, what can we do to build up our credibility so we can leverage that experience into a paid gig? So you have to look credible, which comes with the video and the speaker's reel. You have to reach out to organizations and events. Understand that your first year, honey, you're probably gonna be doing a lot of free speeches. Let's just be real. You're gonna be doing a lot of free speeches your first year or so. Which is good, because you'll get better. You'll get better. You'll get better with time, because there's nothing worse than bombing a paid speaking gig. So it's okay to bomb for free, all right? Y'all didn't pay me anyway. Doesn't matter. So I would say for the first year to reach out to especially high schools, high school graduations. If you can speak in front of a high school graduation, you can speak in front of anybody, because they are rude, and if they don't like what you're saying, they will show it. Next, I also think it's good to have a bureau. A bureau? A bureau. So I have a speaker's bureau. My bureau is William Morris Endeavor, WME, and they're the ones that represent me as an agency. So when you go to pitch yourself to an agency, you need to have a website and you need to have the speaker's reel so that they can see that you know how to speak. Now, what comes to having a speaker's bureau is it's dependent on whether or not it's dependent on whether or not the agent pitches you. So what happens is that a conference or a company comes to the agent or the agency and says, hey, I'm looking for someone to discuss diversity and inclusion. Here's my budget. And everyone that falls in that budget, they'll send out a nice little list of people. And on that list, it'll be a link to your profile on the agency website, which connects to your website, right? And that's where they'll see your speaker's reel, and then they'll decide if they want to book you. So I would say pitch yourself to the bureau. Also, don't let them take any more than 25% of your speaker's fee, okay? If they're asking, negotiate. If they're asking for anything more than 25%, you know, nah, this ain't gonna work. 25% or less, and even 25% is pretty high. It's pretty high. It's pretty high. I'm thinking like 18%. I think that's good. My bureau takes 15. So if you could get it at below 20 as a new incoming speaker, I would keep it at, honestly, below 20. Keep it at below 20. Cool. And to be practical, if you're looking for somewhere to speak, look where you just came from. If you're in college, go back to high school. If you just graduated college, you have a job now, go to your college and talk about your experience post-grad. Just go one step back, because you're one step ahead of where they are, and you have value in that. So that's all it really looks. All it looks like is just going back and sharing with people what you know. Yeah. So I want to kind of pivot now, and I know that we talked a lot about public speaking and motivational speaking, but the ShineHard platform is really focused on closing the racial wealth gap, and I think we all have a purpose that can help us achieve that. One saying that we commonly say is passion changes everything, because we believe that passion will lead you to your purpose. It seems like you've navigated your journey as an Army Reserve captain, you've done the Miss USA thing, and now you're a motivational speaker. I think you're walking in your purpose. You're inspiring people, you're motivating people, and you're uplifting culture. But if I had to ask you to break it down, what would you say is your passion, and when did you know?
What is my passion and how did I know? It sounds very generic, but I definitely think that I don't consider myself to be an influencer. I consider myself to be an impactor. I'm always looking for ways to impact people as individuals. I think that one of the awesome things about having a social media platform is that I'm having opportunities to connect with people directly. Actually, a girl that I just met in the bathroom, she's like, yeah, I've DM'd you a few times. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't respond. Did I respond? She's like, oh, you responded. I'm like, I did. Oh, thank God, But it's because, and she was just like, she just appreciated the fact that I'm of 140,000 people that follow me, I took the time to respond. I like to impact people on an individual level just because I think that holds weight. So I definitely think that my passion is impacting. And I think that I discovered it probably, there's been a few different moments, but I think I discovered my impact probably during my final walk as Miss USA. I decided to do my mom passed away 3 months into me winning Miss USA. And my mom was always very Afrocentric, like she always just was all about the fro, like it's all about the Afro. Always about making sure that we are not hiding our Blackness.
Right.
So she always told me, even the 6-7 years competing for my state before I went on to Miss USA, she was always saying, I need you to wear your Afro, wear your Afro. I kept saying, Mom, they're not gonna crown me with an Afro. Please understand. They're not gonna do it. They're not ready.
Do it for the culture.
They're not ready yet, at least not for that 4C Afro. They're not too strong for them, too strong. So I just kept telling her, no, no, no. And then when she passed away, I kept trying to think of ways that I could, represent her during my time as Miss USA, and I realized that during my final walk and walking on stage, I wanted to take that moment not only to celebrate and unhide my Blackness, but to take the moment to represent a lot of women that are underrepresented. And I think that coming from, the workplace, we're always, as African-American women and women of color, we're always very concerned about our hair and concerned about what our hair looks like and how it makes people feel. So I was like, you know what? Let me make a lot of people uncomfortable. So I decided, to let the organization know, and surprisingly, they were all for it. I was very surprised. But I was like, during my final walk, I want to wear an Afro as a tribute to my mom. And they said, hey, we're for it. How are we going to do this? I was like, well, I'm going to wear a wig. And then halfway through the competition, I'm gonna rip the wig off, take out my twist out. The girls know what I'm talking about. Take out my twist out, and I'm gonna walk out with a fro. And I remember I received hundreds of messages, hundreds of tweets. All these little girls were posting themselves with their afros, and hashtagging Miss USA. And it was a moment where I think, wow, just that subtle act. Made such a huge impact. It wasn't influencing people, it was impacting people. So, thanks, girl. So I think in that moment, sometimes such a subtle activity can make people stand up proud again. And I think that hiding my Blackness is something that I had to kind of control when I was Miss USA, because I think that this is one thing. When you're Miss USA, you can't just you have to be able to relate to everyone. They can't just think that you only relate to the black people in the room. You know, they have to be able to put you in every room. But I think that sometimes I didn't feel comfortable in every room. So I had to hide parts of me during that time. So I feel like it was kind of my unleashing moment to say, you know, I no longer have to hide. I can now be myself like I've always wanted to be. So yeah, impact.
That sounds very liberating.
Yeah, I think it was.
That afro. That's a beautiful story. Do you
you.
feel like everyone has a dream?
No, I don't actually.
No?
I have met some very complacent people.
Wow.
Am I wrong? Have you ever met someone where they just don't think, they're just not interested in anything?
Wow. So what separates people who make their dreams a reality and the people who don't?
Fear. Fear. And that was another point that I had in my notes. I feel like some of you all you're sitting here and you have this thing in the back of your mind that you know you want to do. Like, you know deep down you want to do this. And you're just trying to build up the confidence to do it. I would say to do it without confidence. Because that builds confidence. Because you're able to do something that makes you so uncomfortable.
Start where you are with what you have.
Absolutely. Some of you are afraid. I'm telling you, it's okay to be afraid, but to sit and spend your life in fear, all for these days to come and go, and now you know, God forbid something were to happen to us tomorrow, will we be happy with how we live today?
Yep, absolutely. You literally have one chance to do everything that you will ever do in this one lifetime, and it's happening right now.
Yeah.
And again, take responsibility for your future. I can't stress that enough. When I decided that I was going to break generational curses for my family, that is when my whole life changed. That's when doors started opening. That's when people started looking at me different, asking me to speak, and I had platforms like this. It was just a decision that I made that I was not turning back. Deshauna, I'm gonna throw it to you really quickly to let everyone know how they can find you online, and then we're gonna wrap this big thing up.
Well, you can find me at Deshauna.com. That's my website. If you need some inspiration, go on there. It's really nice. Also on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, not Snap, Deshauna Barber. You can find me. I can't do
no Snapchats?
No Snap. I don't know. I can't. It's too much. But yeah, all at Deshauna Barber. So find me there. And if you all need anything, shoot me a message. Say, hey, you know, met you at Google the other day. If I don't respond, message me again and again and again, because I'm getting lots of messages, but I try to be as responsive to you all as possible.
And you guys can find me at @1JohnnyBailey online. Shoot me an email at johnnybailey@google.com. Find a way to serve. Find your why, and I'll see you guys next time. Deshauna Barber, everybody, a round of applause. Here are 3 ways you can support. 1, visit our website. Continue to watch and share our collection of ShineHard conversations. 2, register for our annual conference, the ShineHard Summit. 3, make a donation. With your support, we can provide access to spaces, access to information, and access to capital for the next generation of young Black leaders.